Leora stood alone in the tribunal hall, the walls gleaming with cold alloys and flickering justice scripts that crawled like insects across the surfaces. The high magistrates sat upon their data thrones in elevated rings, emotionless in their robes of matte silver and blinking sigil masks. Each breath Leora took tasted of filtered dust and resignation. "Guilty," said the synthesized voice of the central arbiter. Not shouted. Not screamed. Just spoken like any fact of the universe. The sky above Virenhold was laced with sensor drones, and Leora Venn, citizen node ID V24-7711, was found guilty of data treason against the planetary grid. Her knees didn't buckle. Her voice didn't crack. She simply exhaled through her nostrils and met the hollow, glowing eyes of the arbiter. Behind her, the digital chains on her wrists pulsed once, then locked with a hum of finality. A shameful sound. Ren watched from the rear of the observation deck. The thick glass wall separated spectators from the accused like it separated the guilty from the innocent. He wasn't crying. He wasn't even blinking. Just staring, his hands clenched around the memory stick embedded in the hem of his jacket. His mother's lips moved. Not goodbye. Find the truth. Virenhold, city of vertical ambition and manufactured skies, looked beautiful from above. Ren had always hated that. From the mid-level sectors up, the structures shimmered with synthetic marble, anti-grav carousels, and private orbital elevators. But below, the lower grids bled rust and refused to shine. He lived 2 layers above the rust line. High enough to avoid the worst floods, low enough to be ignored. His flat, more a converted duct space than an apartment, was silent except for the ticking of holorelays and his own breath. The screen before him showed his mother's final day of trial. Her data slate had been locked. Her retinal scan had authorized every transfer. Her defense had no counter-evidence. She had been, in every official sense, guilty. And Ren knew it was a lie. They forged the command trail, he muttered. He rewound the stream. Paused. Watched frame by frame the instant her access signal pinged the node at Tower Delta 5. Her code had initiated the override that almost brought down the city's AI infrastructure, but it was too fast. It had executed 0.04 seconds before her ID authorization actually completed. Impossible. Someone else had already sent the command and retrofitted her credentials after. Ren copied the timing matrix. Encrypted it. Buried it in a ghost file, then shut down the stream. The tribunal wouldn't let him appeal. Not with his low-rank citizen ID and no firm backing. But he didn't need appeal. He needed access. And that meant going underground. Grid Sector 31 was a scar on Virenhold's perfect geometry. A collapsed ring, barely powered, its old server stacks now used by scrappers, junkers, and truth-seekers who didn't mind breathing smoke. Ren crept down the service tunnel with nothing but his data band, a modified shock light, and his mother's fire in his veins. She was innocent. And he would prove it. He reached a grated hatch painted with rusted sigils. Knocked twice. Waited. It opened with a hiss. Standing there, lit from behind by leaking wires and old neon, was Tana. "You're late," she said, stepping aside. Ren slipped inside. "You're Leora Venn's son." He didn't ask how she knew. Everyone knew, even if no one said it out loud. The trial had been broadcast across 6 layers of Virenhold. There had been no doubt, no question. Only a conviction that tasted too neat, too fast. "I need access to the tribunal's private logs," he said. Tana laughed, but not unkindly. "You don't need access. You need proof. And maybe a little recklessness." Ren hesitated. "I have that." She raised an eyebrow. "Prove it." "Follow me." The archive was beneath the archive. Abandoned sectors of the original Virenhold server vaults, sealed before most modern citizens were born. Walls buzzed with old power. Cables drooped like vines. And in the center was a relic terminal. Tana knelt beside it, flicked a blade from her sleeve, and pried open the panel. Circuit sparked. Most data was cleaned after the fusion overhaul, she explained, hands moving fast. But some deeper stacks got skipped. Errors, ghosts, things they don't want traced. Ren plugged in his memory stick. The processor whined. Lights flickered. Then, images. Logs. Signatures. He scrolled through lines of command. Past his mother's identifier. Past the override protocol. Stop, Tana said. He froze. Go back. That line. See that header? The Z, Cav 82 on the encrypted stub. Ren leaned closer. That's not your mother's pattern. It's tribal executive. You're looking at Zell Kaver's mask signature. Ren stared. She didn't do it. He did. And if we prove it? Tana stood, brushing ash from her knees. We burn the tribunal down. Ren didn't sleep after discovering the mask signature. Not that he was much for sleep since the trial. Even when he closed his eyes, the sound of the tribunal's synthesized voice echoed in his skull. Guilty. It had spoken the word like it was gravity, unshakable, cruel, inevitable. But now he had something tangible. Not just doubt, not just fury. Proof. Zell Kaver, he whispered into the darkness of his tiny flat. He leaned over his workbench and activated a miniature shield projector, cloaking the console in a privacy haze. The encoded logs he and Tana had recovered were laid out in an interactive grid. Red lines, hidden beneath overwritten layers, now glowed faintly against the black. There was something else hidden there. He didn't just frame her. He covered up a secondary file. He ran a sequence decoder. It churned, spat out fragments of corrupted data, and then a word flashed up. Failsafe protocol overridden. Ren's heart skipped. This wasn't about sabotage. This was about prevention. Someone had overridden a failsafe protocol seconds before the meltdown event that Leora was blamed for. The code was sloppy. Desperate. Which meant someone was panicking. Ren returned to Grid 31 at dawn. The city above stirred with automated buses and metallic birds sweeping air currents for illegal flight signatures. But here, in the shadowed depths, he found Tana exactly where he left her, half asleep, curled near the still-humming relic terminal with a power cable wrapped around her boot like a cat. Tana, he said. Her eyes blinked open, one at a time. She stretched, kicked the cable loose, and sat up. Either you've brought more encrypted logs, or you're being hunted. Maybe both. He passed her a data pad. She read it silently. Her mouth thinned. This is tribunal-grade security. You know that, right? Accessing it without clearance is treason, he offered. She looked at him, ironic. But yes. He nodded. We need access to a grid node. Not surface level. One of the deep taps. You want to go into the void. I want to find what they tried to erase. Tana stared at him a long moment. Then suit up. We're going into the dark. The archival void wasn't on any maps. It used to be the primary memory cache for Virenhold's planetary AI before being decommissioned in the Great Merge. No one was supposed to even know it existed. You sure we won't get irradiated? Ren asked as they stepped onto the maintenance lift, descending past a waterfall of dead cooling fluid. Not unless you lick the wrong panel. And even then, you might gain superpowers. Ren smiled despite himself. He hadn't smiled in days. What about power? Won't everything be cold? Not if we bring our own. Tana patted the side of her jacket where a pulse battery hummed. Besides, the void never really turns off. It just waits. They entered through a vent barely wide enough for a human torso. Inside, it was black. Not dark, black. Light died here. Or perhaps the void consumed it. But Tana activated a portable looming lantern, casting long shadows through the forest of glassy data spires that surrounded them. "This place is beautiful," Ren whispered. "It's haunted," Tana replied. "Memories without minds. Signals with no source. It's what happens when you delete without mercy." She led him between the spires to a central pillar. There, the floor bore a broken symbol, the original sigil of Virenhold's founding AI. Tana pressed her hand to it. The floor vibrated. "You remember what we're looking for. The fallback memory stacks. Anything Leora uploaded the day of the breach. Or," Tana added, "anything someone else tried to bury." They jacked into the pillar, data flowing into their neural filters. It was dizzying. Streams of forgotten code, flickers of holograms, images of Virenhold from a century ago, preserved perfectly. Ren saw buildings that didn't exist anymore. Streets that had no names now. And then, Leora's voice. Failsafe activated. Overrides denied. System reroute initiated. It came through static, barely more than a whisper, but real. Tana gripped his arm. "There it is. That's her voice. That's her code pattern." Ren isolated the signal, traced it backward. Someone tried to delete this sequence. Scrubbed it from 3 layers of memory. But they missed the backup pulse. "Can you extract it?" "Only if we find the key anchor. It's stored in physical format." "Where?" Ren paused. "Tribunal Vault. Level Alpha." Tana groaned. "Of course it is. Breaking into the tribunal wasn't an option. Not unless you had help." "I know someone," Tana said the next day, over greasy noodles and synthetic tea in a rooftop market. "A friend?" "Not exactly. Someone who owes me." Enter Sevi. Short, cocky, and addicted to forbidden access ports. He looked at Ren like he was a broken datapad. "You want what?" "Access to the vault," Ren repeated. "Kid, I could maybe get you 5 seconds of mirrored protocol before they send an execution drone through your ribcage." "That's 4 seconds more than we need," Tana said. Sevi whistled. "You're insane. Both of you. Lucky for you, I love insanity." He passed Ren a silver card. It hummed with encryption. "You plug this into the central stack during a diagnostic sweep. It copies everything it touches, reroutes the security logs. You have exactly 1 shot." Ren nodded. "Where do I plug in?" "Under the East Tribunal gate. Their floor scrubbers have a maintenance port. You'll need to be on cleaning duty." "I can do that." "You sure?" "You'll be in and out in under a minute. If they catch you." "They won't." Ren walked into the tribunal 3 days later in a blue uniform that smelled like lemon cleaner and regret. His ID badge flickered with a barely passable clearance code forged by Sevi the night before. He pushed the floor scrubber past the magistrate's chamber. Paused. Knelt. Inserted the card. 5 seconds. 4. 3. A hum. "Data sync complete," said the card softly. He yanked it free and moved on. Nobody stopped him. Not yet. Back in Grid 31, Ren, Tana, and Sevi watched as the card decrypted the files. Hundreds of sequences. System failsafes. Leora's audio logs. And then one file opened on its own. A video. Zell Kaver, standing before the tribunal's central AI. Speaking into a recorder. Her code interfered. The override failed. If she speaks, the chain breaks. He turned. Terminate all backup instances. Attribute code sequence to her ID. Seal the vault. No one must know. Sevi sat back, whistling. Well. That's a smoking plasma cannon. We have him, Ren said. Not yet, Tana replied. But we will. This we can show the city. Ren looked down at the pad, where his mother's voice played softly in the background. She stopped to collapse. And they buried her for it. His hands shook. No more hiding. Next step is public. Next step, Tana said, is war. Ren's hand hovered over the upload command. Just one touch would push the video, the damning confession of Zell Caver, into the public net. You sure we're ready for this? He asked, glancing at Tana, who sat across from him with arms crossed and jaw set. We weren't ready to find it, she said, but we did. We weren't ready to steal it, but we did. This is the easy part. Sevi leaned back in his chair and drummed his fingers across his stomach. Easy's not the word I'd use. Once this goes live, it's not just your mother on trial. It's every piece of code the tribunal's ever locked behind authorization masks. Ren nodded. Then tapped the screen. It took 12 seconds for the echo to ripple through Virenhold. First, the city feeds flickered. Public terminal kiosks buzzed and reset. Hologram ads paused mid-loop. Even private personal assistants stuttered. And then the feed began. Zell Caver's voice, grainy but unmistakable. His face, his confession. On every screen. Across the towers and underwalks of Virenhold, people stopped. Watched. Listened. Some gasped. Some shook their heads. Some recorded with shaky fingers even as the system itself tried to wipe the video from their devices. It didn't work. Tana's mirror protocols rerouted the deletion commands. The footage kept playing. Again. And again. And again. Within minutes, citizens were shouting. Uploading their own demands. Messages flooded the tribunal's net ports. Leora's name climbed to the top of every feed stream. Innocent. Betrayed. Set up. By evening, 3 magistrates had resigned. Riot lines formed around the Justice Dome. We need to move, Tana said. Ran looked up from the flashing console. Where? To the forge. We need the final confirmation. We leak that too, the people won't just riot. They'll act. The forge lay beneath Virenhold's spinal tower, the backbone of the entire megacity. It wasn't on any maps, not because it was hidden, but because no one was supposed to know it could be accessed without tribunal sanction. But Tana knew a way. Through the necrotic sector. Ren's boots crunched over broken circuits and panels that had fallen from the tower's once mirrored walls. The necrotic sector had been ravaged by a systems purge 20 years ago. Some said it was an accidental cascade. Others whispered it had been a test run. This used to be a data cathedral, Tana said quietly. They modeled it after the old information temples from the moon colonies. Now it's just another graveyard. And the forge? Still burns beneath. Come on. The path twisted into a vertical access tunnel. Climbing down was brutal, rungs bent, darkness tight. Halfway through, Ren's foot slipped. Only Tana's grip kept him from falling. You okay? Just my pride. That's the first thing to go in rebellion. At the base, a pressure door sealed the chamber. Tana worked her way through its interface with methodical precision, bypassing biometric scans, feeding false heartbeat data. The door hissed open. And the forge greeted them. Massive. Lit by deep crimson glow. Rows of memory cores floated in suspension fluid. Mechanical arms moved like ancient priests over scripture, tending to lines of thought encoded in pulses of color. This is it, Tana whispered. Every neural archive the city ever processed. Every backdoor. Every override. The tribunal says this was decommissioned. They lied. Ren walked slowly forward. In the center, suspended like a relic, was the core of the defense override, the command key that had nearly melted the city's safety net. He scanned it. Confirmed it. This was never hers, he said. The embedded ID shows a misaligned cipher. Kaver's template. He cloned her signature. And this, Tana said, stepping beside him, is the kill command. She rerouted it. Sacrificed her clearance access to shut it down. And for that, they called her a traitor. Ren's hands curled into fists. We show this. We free her. We start something bigger than that. Uploading from the forge was different. More raw. Like feeding truth into a wounded beast and hoping it didn't bite back. Ren threaded the visual logs, voice clips, override maps, and cross-verified them through 5 dead circuits. He linked the sequence to a backup server inside the tribunal dome itself. Ready? Always. He pressed send. The city cracked. Not physically. But in spirit. The people surged. From the lower grids to the high spires. Voices rose. Demonstrations turned into occupations. Tribunal walls were spray-painted with digital ink that shimmered and pulsed. Justice for Leora. Truth for Virenhold. Kaver fled. Not far. Not fast. They caught him in a side tunnel under Central Protocol headquarters. He had tried to delete his identity. The system wouldn't let him. His access had been revoked. Laura Venn stood in the tribunal's public square 2 days later, blinking against sunlight for the first time in weeks. Ren waited by the stairs. She descended slowly. Paused before him. You did it. He nodded, unable to speak. She reached for his hand. You saved me. He shook his head. You saved us first. That night, Virenhold didn't sleep. Not because of fear. Because of hope. For the first time in years, the city dreamed of something new. For 40 hours, Virenhold was a living fire. By day, protesters flooded the civic corridors. By night, banners of light code stitched themselves across the skyline, luminous trails of resistance pulsing from the core tower to the outer grids. Messages scrawled in data tags floated above crowds, hashtag Justice for Leora, hashtag Truth Unmasked, hashtag Forge Honor. Ren walked the city like a ghost with purpose. Each sector he entered reacted differently. Some greeted him like a hero. Others like a symbol they weren't sure they could trust. He was careful to meet every eye. Not above. Not below. Just with them. Beside them. Tana never left his side. Her jacket now bore 5 signal patches from rebel nodes. Her movements were sharper. Her gaze constantly shifting. She slept in snatches. Ate when forced. Every second was a risk. You're turning into a symbol, she said one night. I'm just a son. No, she said, gently brushing dust from his collar. You're something they didn't expect, human truth wrapped in flawed courage. The kind that makes others brave. Leora refused to return home. Instead, she took a temporary residence near the tribunal ruins, in a converted holochamber now used to broadcast public assemblies. She spoke only when needed. Answered only when truth demanded. I will not reclaim anything, she told the crowd on her second day out, until you choose what future you want. Her voice didn't rise, but the silence that followed shook the spires. By the 5th day, rumors stirred, the tribunal was reforming in secret. Not all magistrates had resigned. Some had gone underground, taking with them secure data cores, defense protocols, and the override to Virenhold's auto-enforcer grid. They could flip it on us, Sevi warned. Turn the sky drones, activate lockdown scripts, overwrite the rebellion with one keystroke. We need to get there first, Ren said. How? Tana asked. Those override systems were hard-coded into the arc spine. We'd have to breach an airlocked vault no one's accessed in 30 years. Ren looked at Leora. You have the original architecture in your memory, don't you? Yes, she said. But if I enter that space again, they'll try to know me. Not if we go together. The arc spine was Virenhold's hidden route, a vertical core running from the city's lowest crust to the sensor array crowning its highest tower. It was sealed by legacy protocols, accessible only by original founders' keys. Leora had been one. And now, so had Ren. Ready to walk through history, Tana asked as they approached the steel iris door hidden behind a shattered transit bay. More like kick history in the teeth, Sevi muttered, adjusting his signal jammers. Laura scanned her palm. The door remained silent. Ren stepped forward. Raised his hand. Key 2 accepted, said the AI softly. The iris unfurled. The interior was colder than memory. Floors of hyperglass. Walls laced with neurosilver. Cables moved like veins through the structure, pulsing with latent energy. This was supposed to be a failsafe, Leora said. A place for citywide reset. Not a weapon. They turned it into one, Ren said. Sevi unlocked the interface node. Main defense sequence is here. Locked by genetic cipher and logic gate. Can you crack it? Tana asked. Not without a short prayer and a longer delay. Unless. We give it what it fears. Ren sat down at the node. Closed his eyes. Let his breath steady. He'd never injected before. Not into a core system this old. But he knew how to map thought. How to visualize syntax. How to flow between echoes. Tie me in, he said. That's a bad idea, Leora warned. Only if it doesn't work. The injection was lightning. Thoughts weren't thoughts here. They were lights. Paths. Rivers of old knowledge and new fears, braided together in endless sequences. He followed a pulse down a fractal corridor. Saw flashes of tribunal code, a mask made from his mother's pattern. Lines of lies. You are not authorized, a voice boomed. I'm not here to be authorized, he said aloud. You are a contaminant. No, Ren said, I'm the update. Tana watched his body twitch in the real world. He's sinking. Too fast, Sevi said. He'll burn. Not if he finds the command seed. Inside, Ren found it. A tiny node. No bigger than a breath. Hiding under a wall of looped logic. He touched it. And spoke. Revoke. Light surged. The walls of the arc spine shimmered. The sky drones above Virenhold froze midair. Defense codes collapsed into inert data. Ren gasped, collapsing back into himself. Did it work? He asked. Look up, Tana said. Across Virenhold, the rebellion had been given breath. The enforcer grid, gone. The threat, neutralized. But not all were done fighting. 23 rogue enforcers activated legacy drives and marched toward the city square. We need to stop them, Sevi said. We can't reach them in time, Leora said. No, Ren whispered, tapping his pulse band. But I can call the people. When the enforcers reached the square, they found more than protesters. They found Virenhold standing united. Every citizen with a comlink projected signal nullifiers. Kids launched light nets from hacked wristbands. Elders stood with memory torches, flames coded to disrupt legacy AI. Artists drew override sigils in pure light. And in the middle stood Leora. Her arms raised. Her voice steady. You were made to serve. Not to silence. One by one, the enforcers froze. Their directives broken. Their loops ended. Ren stepped beside her. Smiled. See. I told you hope's contagious. 3 days later, Virenhold voted. Not for a ruler. For a council. Elected. Equal. Laura declined nomination. So did Ren. You gave us the chance, the new lead said. That's enough. On the edge of the city, Ren and Tana sat beneath the shattered remnants of an old data spire. The stars above were clearer than they had been in decades. You ever think we'd see this? He asked. No, Tana said. But I hoped. What now? She looked at him. Smiled. Now we build something worth dreaming for. Ironhold awoke in silence. Not the hush of oppression, nor the quiet of fear. It was a reverent stillness, like the city itself had drawn breath and was listening. Above the highest towers, the sky shone with real sunlight for the first time in years. The climate mesh had been deactivated, by choice. A gesture. A gift. Ren stood on the balcony of the new civic nexus, staring out across the city that had once buried his mother alive in protocol and lies. You look like someone expecting a final exam, Tana said from behind, tying her hair back with a fiber cord. And the teacher's already grading you. Maybe because I am. Relax. We're not running today. Not hacking. Not dodging pulses. Today we celebrate. Ren glanced at her. She wore a coat patterned with the hex symbols of the uprising. It shimmered subtly with every breath she took. You look official. Shut up, she said, but her smirk softened it. At midday, the entire city gathered in the Star Forum, now rebuilt. No longer a place of judgment. A place of convergence. Representatives of each sector arrived bearing coded lights instead of weapons. Families sat beside strangers. Voices filled the air in a dozen dialects. Leora entered last. She wore no armor. No robe. Just the same jacket she'd worn when she'd first been taken. She'd refused to wear anything else. They called it prison, she said as she took the dais. I called it pause. And now, we move forward. Together. The vote wasn't just for council measures. It was for what came next. There were 4 proposals. 1. Rebuild the tribunal. Regulate it with oversight. 2. Dissolve centralized governance, distribute control entirely to sectors. 3. Integrate Virenhold into the Orbital Alliance, ask for protection. 4. Become independent, write a new law from the ground up. Ren watched the results populate across screens. The 4th option climbed. And won. You just became citizens of the Free State of Virenhold, Tana whispered, astonished. You just made history. Ren didn't reply. His eyes were on his mother. Leora stepped down from the platform and approached him. The city belongs to its people now, she said. You sure it's ready? No, she said, but ready is a myth. All that matters is willing. The celebration lasted days. Old walls fell. New paths opened. Government was no longer a building. It was a network. Rotating voices. Tested ideas. No masks. Ren and Tana were invited to lead. They declined. We're not rulers, Ren said. We're reminders. On the 5th night, Leora sat with Ren beside the mirror pool. It reflected the stars, unfiltered, uninterrupted. I thought I'd die in that cell, she said quietly. Not because of time. Because of silence. Because no one would speak. You did speak. They just refused to listen. But you listened. Ren turned. I almost gave up. There were nights I thought maybe they'd been right. Maybe you did what they said. Doubt isn't failure. It's proof you cared. He looked up. What now? Whatever you want. You saved a city. He laughed softly. I just wanted to save you. She reached for his hand. You did both. Tana found him later at the old Data Spire garden. Leora says she's going to teach again. Code ethics. Memory law. She should. And you? Still planning to disappear once this all settles? Ren hesitated. Maybe. But I don't want to run. Not anymore. She nodded. Then don't. What about you? I have a list of systems still running tribunal ghosts. I'm going hunting. He smiled. Need backup? Always. Their ship lifted off 3 weeks later. Small. Patched together. But fast. As it cleared Virenhold's skyline, Ren looked down at the glowing lines below. Hope in circuit. Truth in pulse. He turned to Tana. Where to? She grinned. Wherever someone says, you can't. He leaned back in his seat. Sounds like home. Far below, in the garden where memory began, a child touched the remnants of the old spire and whispered. This is where the light came back.